Chapter 10 of The Absentee by Maria Edgeworth. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Towards the evening of the second day's journey, the driver of Lord Collamber's hackney chaise stopped, and, jumping off the wooden bar on which he had been seated, exclaimed, "We've come to the bad step now. The bad road's beginning upon us, please your honour." "Bad road? That is very uncommon in this country. I never saw such fine roads as you have in Ireland." "That's true, and God bless your honour that's sensible of that same. For it's not what all the foreign quality I drive have the manners to notice. God bless your honour. I heard you're a Welshman, but whether or no, I am sure you are a gentleman, anyway, Welsh or other." Notwithstanding the shabby greatcoat, the shrewd postillion perceived by our hero's language that he was a gentleman. After much dragging at the horses' heads and pushing and lifting, the carriage was got over what the postillion said was the worst part of the bad step. But as the road was not yet to say good, he continued walking beside the carriage. "It's only bad just hereabouts, and that by accident," said he, "on account of there being no gentleman resident in it, nor near, but only a bit of an under-agent, a great little rogue, who gets his own turn out of the roads, and of everything else in life. I, Larry Brady, that I'm telling your honour, have a good right to know, for myself and my father, and my brother Pat Brady, the wheelwright, had once a farm under him, but was ruined, horse and foot, all along with him, and cast out, and my brother forced to fly the country, and is now working in some coachmaker's yard in London. Banished he is. And here am I, forced to be what I am, and now that I'm reduced to drive a hack, the agent's a curse to me still, with these bad roads, killing my horses and wheels, and a shame to the country, which I think more of. Bad luck to him." "I know your brother. He lives with Mr. Mordecai in Longacre, in London." "Oh, God bless you for that." They came at this time within view of a range of about 24 men and boys, sitting astride on 24 heaps of broken stones on each side of the road. They were all armed with hammers, with which they began to pound with great diligence and noise as soon as they saw the carriage. The chaise passed between these batteries, the stones flying on all sides. "How are you, Jem? How are you, Phil?" said Larry. "But hold your hand, can't you, while I stop and get the stones out of the horses' feet. So you're making up the rent, are you, for St. Denis?" "Whoosh," said one of the pounders, coming close to the postillion, and pointing his thumb back towards the chaise. "Who have you in it?" "Oh, you need not scruple. He's a very honest man. He's only a man from North Wales, one Mr. Evans, an innocent gentleman, that's sent over to travel up and down the country to find is there any copper mines in it." "How do you know, Larry?" "Because I know very well, from one that was told, and I seen him tax the man of the king's head with the copper half-crown at first sight, which was only lead to look at, you'd think, to them that was not skilful in copper. So lend me a knife till I cut a linchpin out of the hedge, for this one won't go far." Whilst Larry was making the linchpin, all scruple being removed, his question about St. Denis and the rent was answered. "Aye, it's the rent, sure enough, we're pounding out for him. For he sent the driver round last night was 8 days, to warn us old Nick would be down a Monday, to take a sweep among us, and there's only 6 clear days, Saturday night, before the assizes, sure. So we must see and get it finished, anyway, to clear the presentment again the swearing day, for he and Paddy Hart is the overseers themselves, and Paddy is to swear to it." "St. Denis, is it? Then you've one great comfort and security, that he won't be particular about the swearing, for since ever he had his head on his shoulders, an oath never stuck in St. Denis's throat more than in his own brother, old Nick's." "His head upon his shoulders," repeated Lord Collamber. "Pray, did you ever hear that St. Denis's head was off his shoulders?" "It never was, plaise your honour, to my knowledge." "Did you never among your saints hear of St. Denis carrying his head in his hand?" said Lord Collamber. "The rael saint," said the postillion, suddenly changing his tone and looking shocked. "Oh, don't be talking that way of the saints, plaise your honour." "Then of what St. Denis were you talking just now? Whom do you mean by St. Denis, and whom do you call Old Nick?" "Old Nick," answered the postilion, coming close to the side of the carriage, and whispering, "Old Nick, please your honour, is our nickname for one Nicholas Garrity, Esquire, of College Green, Dublin, and St. Denis is his brother Denis, who is Old Nick's brother in all things, and would fain be a saint, only he is a sinner. He lives just by here, in the country, under agent to Lord Clonbrony, as Old Nick is upper agent. It's only a joke among the people that are not fond of them at all. Lord Clonbrony himself is a very good gentleman, if he was not an absentee, resident in London, leaving us and everything to the likes of them." Lord Colambre listened with all possible composure and attention, but the postilion having now made his linchpin of wood and fixed himself, he mounted his bar and drove on, saying to Lord Colambre, as he looked at the road-makers, "Poor creatures, they couldn't keep their cattle out of pound, or themselves out of jail, but by making this road." "Is road-making, then, a very profitable business? Have road-makers higher wages than other men in this part of the country?" "It is, and it is not. They have, and they have not, please your honour." "I don't understand you." "No, because you're an Englishman, that is, a Welshman, I beg your honour's pardon. But I'll tell you how that is, and I'll go slow over these broken stones, for I can't go fast. It is where there's no gentlemen over these under agents, as here, they do as they plaise, and when they have set the land they get raisonable from the head landlords, the poor creatures at a rack rent, that they can't live and pay the rent, they say—" "Who says?" "Them under agents, that have no conscience at all. Not all, but some, like Dennis, says he, I'll get you a road to make up the rent. That is, please your honour, the agent gets them a presentment for so many purchase of road from the grand jury at twice the price that would make the road. And tenants are, by this means, as they take the road by contract, at the price given by the county, able to pay all they get by the job, over and above potatoes and salt, back again to the agent for the arrear on the land. Do I make your honour sensible?" "You make me much more sensible than I ever was before," said Lord Colambre. "But is not this cheating the county?" "Well, and suppose," replied Larry, "is not it all for my good and yours too, please your honour?" said Larry, looking very shrewdly. "My good!" said Lord Colambre, startled. "What have I to do with it?" "Haven't you to do with the roads as well as me when you're travelling upon them, please your honour? And sure, they'd never be got made at all if they weren't made this ways, and it's the best way in the wide world, and the finest roads we have. And when the rael gentlemen's resident in the country, there's no jobbing can be, because they're then the leading men on the grand jury, and these journeymen gentlemen are then kept in order, and all's right." Lord Colambre was much surprised at Larry's knowledge of the manner in which country business is managed, as well as by his shrewd good sense. He did not know that this is not uncommon in his rank of life in Ireland. Whilst Larry was speaking, Lord Colambre was looking from side to side at the desolation of the prospect. "So this is Lord Clonbrony's estate, is it?" "Ay, all you see, and as far and farther than you can see. My Lord Clonbrony wrote and ordered plantations here, time back, and enough was paid to labourers for ditching and planting. And what next? Why, what did the under agent do but let the goats in through gaps, left a purpose, to bark the trees, and then the trees was all banished. And next, the cattle was let in trespassing, and winked at, till the land was all poached, and then the land was waste, and cried down, and St. Denis wrote up to Dublin to old Nick, and he over to the landlord, how none would take it, or bid anything at all for it. So then it fell to him a cheap bargain. Oh, the tricks of them! Who knows him if I don't?" Presently Lord Colambre's attention was roused again by seeing a man running, as if for his life, across a bog near the roadside. He leaped over the ditch, and was upon the road in an instant. He seemed startled at first at the sight of the carriage, but, looking at the postilion, Larry nodded, and he smiled and said, "All's safe." "Pray, my good friend, may I ask what that is you have on your shoulder?" said Lord Colambre. "Plaise your honour, it is only a private still, which I've just caught out yonder in the bog, and I'm carrying it in with all speed to the gauger to make a discovery, that the gentleman may benefit by the reward. I expect he'll make me a compliment." "Get up behind, and I'll give you a lift," said the postillion. "Thank you kindly, but better my legs," said the man, and turning down a lane, off he ran again as fast as possible. "Expect he'll make me a compliment?" repeated Lord Colambre. "To make a discovery?" "Ay, plaise your honour, for the law is," said Larry, "that if an unlawful still, that is, a still without licence for whiskey, is found, half the benefit of the fine that's put upon the parish goes to him that made the discovery. That's what that man is after, for he's an informer." "I should not have thought, from what I see of you," said Lord Colambre, smiling, "that you, Larry, would have offered an informer a lift." "Oh, plaise your honour," said Larry, smiling archly, "would not I give the laws a lift when in my power?" Scarcely had he uttered these words, and scarcely was the informer out of sight, when across the same bog and over the ditch came another man, a half kind of gentleman, with a red silk handkerchief about his neck, and a silver-handled whip in his hand. "Did you see any man pass the road, friend?" said he to the postillion. "Oh, who would I see, or why would I tell?" replied Larry, in a sulky tone. "Come, come, be smart," said the man with the silver whip, offering to put half a crown into the postillion's hand. "Point me which way he took." "I'll have none of your silver, don't touch me with it," said Larry. "But if you'll take my advice, you'll strike across back and follow the fields out to Killogenesawee." The exciseman set out again immediately in an opposite direction to that which the man who carried the still had taken. Lord Colambre now perceived that the pretended informer had been running off to conceal a still of his own. "The gauger, plaise your honour," said Larry, looking back at Lord Colambre, "the gauger is a still huntin'." "And you put him on a wrong scent," said Lord Colambre. "Sure, I told him no lie. I only said, if you'll take my advice, and why was he such a fool as to take my advice when I wouldn't take his fee?" "So this is the way, Larry, you give a lift to the laws?" "If the laws would give a lift to me, plaise your honour, maybe I'd do as much by them. But it's only these revenue laws I mean, for I never to my knowledge broke another commandment. But it's what no honest poor man among his neighbours would scruple to take, a glass of potheen." "A glass of what, in the name of heaven?" said Lord Colambre. "Potheen, plaise your honour, because it's the little whiskey that's made in the private still, or pot, and sheen, because it's a fond word for whatsoever we like, and for what we have little of, and would make much of. After taking the glass of it, no man could go and inform to ruin the cratures, for they all shelter on that estate under favour of them that go shares and make rent of 'em. But I'd never inform again 'em. And after all, if the truth was known, and my Lord Clonbrony should be informed against and presented, for it's his neglect is the bottom of the nuisance." "I find all the blame is thrown upon this poor Lord Clonbrony," said Lord Colambre. "Because he is absent," said Larry. "It would not be so was he present. But your honour was talking to me about the laws. Your honour's a stranger in this country, and astray about them things. Sure, why would I mind the laws about whiskey more than the quality, or the judge on the bench?" "What do you mean?" "Why, was not I present in the courthouse myself, when the judge on the bench, judging a still, and across the court came in one with a sly jug of potheen for the judge himself, who preferred it, when the right thing, to claret? And when I seen that, by the laws, a man might talk himself dumb to me after again potheen, or in favour of the revenue or revenue officers, and there they may go on with their gaugers and their surveyors and their supervisors and their watching officers and their coursing officers, setting them one after another, or one over the head of another, or what way they will. We can baffle and laugh at 'em. Didn't I know, next door to our inn last year, 10 watchin' officers set upon one distiller, and he was too cunning for them, and it will always be so, while ever the people think it no sin. No, till then, not all their dockets and permits signify a rush or a turf, and the gauging rod even, who fears it? They may spare that rod, for it will never mend the child. How much longer Larry's dissertation on the distillery laws would have continued, had not his ideas been interrupted, we cannot guess. But he saw he was coming to a town, and he gathered up the reins and plied the whip, ambitious to make a figure in the eyes of its inhabitants. This town consisted of one row of miserable huts, sunk beneath the side of the road, the mud walls crooked in every direction, some of them opening in wide cracks or zigzag fissures from top to bottom, as if there had just been an earthquake. All the roofs sunk in various places, thatch off or overgrown with grass, no chimneys, the smoke making its way through a hole in the roof or rising in clouds from the top of the open door, dunghills before the doors and green standing puddles, squalid children with scarcely rags to cover them, gazing at the carriage. "Nugent's town," said the postillion, "once a snug place, when my Lady Clonbrony was at home to whitewash it, and the like." As they drove by, some men and women put their heads through the smoke out of the cabins, pale women with long black or yellow locks, men with countenances and figures bereft of hope and energy. "Wretched, wretched people," said Lord Colambre. "Then it's not their fault, neither," said Larry, "for my own uncle's one of them, and as thriving and hard a working man as could be in all Ireland he was, afore he was tramped under foot, and his heart broke. I was at his funeral this time last year, and for it may the agent's own heart, if he has any, burn—" Lord Colambre interrupted this denunciation by touching Larry's shoulder, and asking some question, which, as Larry did not distinctly comprehend, he pulled up the reins, and the various noises of the vehicle stopped suddenly. "I did not hear well, please your honour." "What are those people?" pointing to a man and woman, curious figures, who had come out of a cabin, the door of which the woman, who came out last, locked, and, carefully hiding the key in the thatch, turned her back upon the man, and they walked away in different directions, the woman bending under a huge bundle on her back, covered by a yellow petticoat turned over her shoulders. From the top of this bundle the head of an infant appeared. A little boy, almost naked, followed her with a kettle, and 2 girls, one of whom could but just walk, held her hand and clung to her ragged petticoat, forming, altogether, a complete group of beggars. The woman stopped and looked back after the man. The man was a Spanish-looking figure with grey hair. A wallet hung at the end of a stick over one shoulder, a reaping hook in the other hand. He walked off stoutly, without ever casting a look behind him. "A kind harvest to you, John Dolan," cried the postillion, "and success to ye, Winnie, with the quality. There's a luck penny for the child to begin with," added he, throwing the child a penny. "Your honour, they're only poor creatures going up the country to beg, while the man goes over to reap the harvest in England. Nor this would not be, neither, if the Lord was in it to give him employ. That man, now, was a good and willing slave in his day. I mind him working with myself in the shrubberies at Clonbrony Castle when I was a boy. But I'll not be detaining your honour, now the road's better." The postillion drove on at a good rate for some time, till he came to a piece of the road freshly covered with broken stones, where he was obliged again to go slowly. They overtook a string of cars on which were piled up high beds, tables, chairs, trunks, boxes, bandboxes. "How are you, Finnecan? You've fine loading there. From Dublin, are you?" "From Bray." "And what news?" "Great news and bad, for old Nick, or some belonging to him, thanks be to heaven, for myself hates him." "What's happened him?" His sister's husband that's failed, the great grocer that was, the man that had the wife that owed the fine house near Bray, that they got that time the Parliament flitted, and that I seen in her carriage flamin'. Well, it's all out. They're all done up." "Tut, is that all? Then they'll thrive and set up again grander than ever, I'll engage. Have not they old Nick for an attorney at their back? A good warrant." "Oh, trust him for that. He won't go security nor pay a farthin' for his shister, nor wouldn't was she his father. I heard him tellin' her so, which I could not have done in his place at that time, and she cryin' as if her heart would break, and I standin' by in the parlour." "Did he speak that way, and you by?" "Ay, did he, and said, 'Mrs. Rafferty,' says he, 'it's all your own fault. You're an extravagant fool, and ever was, and I wash my hands of you.' That was the word he spoke. And she answered and said, 'And mayn't I send the beds and blankets,' said she, 'and what I can by the cars, out of the way of the creditors, to Clonbrony Castle, and won't you let me hide there from the shame till the bustle's over?' 'You may do that,' says he, 'for what I care, but remember,' says he, 'that I've the first claim to them goods.' And that's all he would grant. So they are coming down all a Monday. Them are her bandboxes and all, to settle it. And faith, it was a pity of her, to hear her sobbing, and to see her own brother speak and look so hard, and she a lady." "Sure, she's not a lady born, no more than himself," said Larry, "but that's no excuse for him. His heart's as hard as that stone," said Larry. "And my own people knew that long ago, and now his own know it, and what right have we to complain, since he's as bad to his own flesh and blood as to us?" With this consolation, and with a "God speed you" given to the carman, Larry was driving off, but the carman called to him, and pointed to a house at the corner of which, on a high pole, was swinging an iron sign of 3 horseshoes set in a crooked frame, and at the window hung an empty bottle, proclaiming whiskey within. "Well, I don't care if I do," said Larry, "for I've no other comfort left me in life now. I beg your honour's pardon, sir, for a minute," added he, throwing the reins into the carriage to Lord Colambre as he leaped down. All remonstrance and power of lungs to reclaim him vain. He darted into the whiskey house with the carman, reappeared before Lord Colambre could accomplish getting out, remounted his seat, and taking the reins, "I thank your honour," said he, "and I'll bring you to Clonbrony before it's pitch dark yet, though it's nightfall, and that's 4 good miles, but a spur in the head is worth 2 in the heel." Larry, to demonstrate the truth of his favourite axiom, drove off at such a furious rate over great stones left in the middle of the road by carmen who had been driving in the gudgeons of their axle-trees to hinder them from lacing, that Lord Colambre thought life and limb in imminent danger, and feeling that, at all events, the jolting and bumping was past endurance, he had recourse to Larry's shoulder, and shook and pulled, and called to him to go slower, but in vain. At last the wheel struck full against a heap of stones at a turn of the road, the wooden linchpin came off, and the chaise was overset. Lord Colambre was a little bruised, but glad to escape without fractured bones. "I beg your honour's pardon," said Larry, completely sobered. "I'm as glad as the best pair of boots ever I see, to see your honour nothing the worse for it. It was the linchpin, and them barrows of loose stones that ought to be fined anyway, if there was any justice in the country." "The pole is broke. How are we to get on?" said Lord Colambre. "Murder, murder, and no smith nearer than Clonbrony, nor rope even. It's a folly to talk. We can't get to Clonbrony, nor stir a step backward or forward the night." "What then? Do you mean to leave me all night in the middle of the road?" cried Lord Colambre, quite exasperated. "Is it me, please your honour? I would not use any gentleman so ill, barrin' I could do no other," replied the postillion, coolly. Then, leaping across the ditch, or as he called it, the gripe of the ditch, he scrambled up, and while he was scrambling, said, "If your honour will lend me your hand till I pull you up the back of the ditch, the horses will stand while we go. I'll find you as pretty a lodging for the night, with a widow of a brother of my shister's husband that was, as ever you slept in your life. for old Nick or St. Denis has not found him out yet, and your honour will be, no compare, snugger than the inn at Clonbrony, which has no roof, the devil a stick. But where will I get your honour's hand, for it's comin' on so dark, I can't see rightly. There, you're up now safe. Yonder candle's the house. Go and ask whether they can give us a night's lodging. Is it ask, when I see the light? Sure, they'd be proud to give the traveller all the beds in the house, let alone one. Take care of the potato furrows, that's all, and follow me straight. I'll go on to meet the dog, who knows me, and might be strange to your honour. Kindly welcome, were the first words Lord Colambre heard when he approached the cottage, and kindly welcome was in the sound of the voice and in the countenance of the old woman who came out, shading her rush candle from the wind, and holding it so as to light the path. When he entered the cottage, he saw a cheerful fire and a neat, pretty young woman making it blaze. She curtsied, put her spinning-wheel out of the way, set a stool by the fire for the stranger, and, repeating, in a very low tone of voice, "Kindly welcome," retired. "Put down some eggs, dear, there's plenty in the bowl," said the old woman, calling to her. "I'll do the bacon. Was not we lucky to be up? The boy's gone to bed, but waken him," said she, turning to the postillion, "and he'll help you with the shay. And put your horses in the byre for the night." No, Larry chose to go on to Clonbrony with the horses, that he might get the chaise mended betimes for his honour. The table was set, clean trenchers, hot potatoes, milk, eggs, bacon, and kindly welcome to all. "Set the salt, dear, and the butter, love. Where's your head, Grace, dear?" "Grace," repeated Lord Colambre, looking up, and, to apologize for his involuntary exclamation, he added, "Is Grace a common name in Ireland?" "I can't say, plaise your honour, but it was give her by Lady Clonbrony, from a niece of her own that was her foster sister. God bless her, and a very kind lady she was to us and to all, when she was living in it. But those times are gone past," said the old woman with a sigh. The young woman sighed too, and, sitting down by the fire, began to count the notches in a little bit of stick which she held in her hand, and after she had counted them, sighed again. "But don't be sighing, Grace, now," said the old woman. "Sighs is bad sauce for the traveller's supper, and we won't be troubling him with more," added she, turning to Lord Colambre with a smile. "Is your egg done to your liking?" "Perfectly, thank you." "Then I wish it was a chicken for your sake, which it should have been, and a roast too, had we time. I wish I could see you eat another egg." "No more, thank you, my good lady. I never ate a better supper, nor received a more hospitable welcome." "Oh, the welcome is all we have to offer." "May I ask what that is?" said Lord Colambre, looking at the notched stick which the young woman held in her hand, and on which her eyes were still fixed. "It's a tally, plaise your honour. Oh, you're a foreigner. It's the way the labourers do keep the account of the day's work with the overseer, the bailiff. A notch for every day the bailiff makes on his stick, and the labourer the like on his stick, to tally. And when we come to make up the account, it's by the notches we go. And there's been a mistake, and is a dispute here between our boy and the overseer, and she was counting the boy's tally that's in bed, tired, for in troth he's overworked." "Would you want anything more from me, mother?" said the girl, rising and turning her head away. "No, child, get away, for your heart's full." She went instantly. "Is the boy her brother?" said Lord Colambre. "No, he's her bachelor," said the old woman, lowering her voice. "Her bachelor?" "That is, her sweetheart. For she is not my daughter, though you heard her call me mother. The boy is my son, but I am afeard they must give it up, for they're too poor, and the times is hard, and the agent's harder than the times. There's two of them, the under and the upper, and they grind the substance of one between them, and then blow one away like chaff. But we'll not be talking of that, to spoil your honour's night's rest. The room's ready, and here's the rushlight." She showed him into a very small but neat room. "What a comfortable-looking bed," said Lord Colambre. "Ah, these red check curtains," said she, letting them down, "these have lasted well. They were give me by a good friend, now far away over the seas, my Lady Clonbrony, and made by the prettiest hands ever you see, her niece's, Miss Grace Nugent's, and she a little child that time. Sweet love, all gone." The old woman wiped a tear from her eye, and Lord Colambre did what he could to appear indifferent. She set down the candle and left the room. Lord Colambre went to bed, but he lay awake, revolving sweet and bitter thoughts. End of chapter 10.